Alright, good evening class. My name is Kevin, and today I got a little presentation for you guys. So the first thing I want to start off with is there's something that everybody in this world, in some form or way, loves, and that's money. And there's one thing in this world that most college students come to dislike, and that's FAFSA. And I'm sure we've all had our experience with FAFSA in the past, and I'm sure a lot of them are not pleasant, whether it be have you doing it yourself or doing it with a parent and just being extremely frustrated. Some of us were lucky enough to have our parents do it all for us and go through all the problems themselves. But today, I want to sit here and tell you about how we can make FAFSA easier. So let's start off with our initial plan, our initial challenge question. And we started off with financial literacy, and we wanted to know how could we increase financial literacy amongst students who were at first minorities and just in general, like the student who would be struggling financially. So with that being said, we went about that question and we started narrowing it down based off the fact that we need to focus more like, what can we do here at Loyola? So we went and we asked, and we said, hey, what do you guys want to know about financial aid? And that came down to our new challenge question being, how can we make financial aid resources more available on campus? So me and my group went out and we tried to figure that out the best we could. We interviewed people, we talked to the financial aid department, and we've come up with some ideas on what we could do. Let's kind of go into like a little overview of where we came from. So we already have our initial challenge question, we have our new challenge question. So then we needed to figure out, how do we engage this problem? What do we start off? How do we start pushing an idea? So we came up with the idea of mini workshops. We felt that would be the most effective. That's what the students told us would be most effective. So with these mini workshops, we need to figure out, okay, who are we going to get to run these workshops? Who is going to use the workshops? And who is going to like start this all up? We can't just do this ourselves. We can't just like sit here and be like, all right, we're going to take this classroom and these people are going to teach it and this is our project. So we couldn't do that. So we went to the financial aid office and they gave us some very helpful feedback. So the first thing that they told us, which was very exciting for us, and that's something that we also wanted, was that an improvement to their website. So they will be updating their website and improving it to make it a lot more easily accessible for students and help you navigate better and figure out exactly what you want to do. In regards to the mini workshops, they're very willing to help us find students, alumni, or anyone who would really be willing to help teach the mini workshops and help get the students the information they need to know. With that being said, we couldn't figure that out at first. That's why I went to the financial aid office. We needed to engage with them because at the end of the day, they're the ones who know the most about FAFSA. They're the ones who know the most about financial aid. So they were the ones who were going to help us from the start. And that would be something we could have done differently, was go off to them from the start. Of course, we did not have our initial challenge. Our initial challenge question did not completely engulf FAFSA. But now that we had FAFSA, if we would have started off with that, definitely would have went to them first because I feel like we could have got a lot more done if we did that. Another thing to mention is the people definitely want to talk more about our stakeholders. So obviously our stakeholders are all of you guys, because I guarantee you most people in here probably receive financial aid, considering 88% of students at Loyola receive financial aid. So with that being said, how could we not want to address this problem? How could you not want more money, right? We love money. Some way or another, you love money. But you don't love FAFSA, but we need you to love FAFSA because we want FAFSA to give you the most money possible. Correct? Who's going to say no to more money?
Not me.
Not you?
Nope.
Me neither. Hey, they're charging a grip here, okay? Alright. And also, there's also some byproducts about being very well informed about FAFSA. And that would be a byproduct of knowing how to fill out financial forms and documentation, things that are necessary for the FAFSA, like your I-9 and your W-4. Simple things like that that people probably may not know how to do once they leave school, but with FAFSA and learning about FAFSA, you will be able to do so. Another thing with the feedback we got with the panel is that we didn't really think of the parents as stakeholders at first. And that was something that was kind of eye-opening to me. Because we're sitting here, we're very focused on the students, but we're not focused on, you know, who else does it affect other than the students. We're only focused on who's going to teach them, and how does it affect them at the end. But it definitely involves the parents, because now the students can do things on their own, and they can ask their parents for documentation or tell them, hey, no, we need to do this. I need to do this with my FAFSA. Because, you know, ultimately, not all parents are going to know how to do everything. We kind of look at them like that, like, hey, like, you're an adult, you know how to do stuff, and then that may not always be true. So you being able to be knowledgeable on your own will help them in the result as well. This also would obviously affect the financial aid department, because they'd have something else new that they're running. And ultimately, it would be beneficial to campus, I would say. Yeah, we definitely came a long way from our initial question, because we were talking about getting bankers and getting people who work with accounts and all kinds of other stuff like that are outside of Loyola. Once we embodied it into the school, we figured out a lot about what this school needed and how students feel about FAFSA and financial aid department. So ultimately, we are setting out to get these mini workshops done and get something set up for the students, because we care about the student body here, and Loyola should be a campus of love, not of hate, not of hating FAFSA for sure. Is there anything else I want to mention? Also, definitely the peer tutoring was a huge, huge insight for us, because I feel that everyone kind of just gets along better when you work with a student who like kind of knows what they're doing. It's kind of like easier to ask them questions. You don't feel as threatened by their presence, because some people feel a little intimidated by adults, especially when they're the ones with like all the knowledge and you're kind of just the one that's clueless. It could be a little bit confusing, so hard to follow along with them. So I feel that the peer-to-peer would be extremely helpful, and I think that's like the real premise of it, is that we get to get the student body together, and you learn from that. You learn from other students, and I feel like that's like the most important thing about all of this. Disregarding the money, disregarding the FAFSA, most important thing is that you get a really good experience with another student. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many FAFSAs you fill out, and no matter how many documents you do, it's always going to be about your interactions. And an interaction with someone with helping you with your FAFSA is going to come a long way, because now you could help someone else. What else can I talk about here?
Kevin, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up.
Wrap it up?
Yeah.
It's a little early.
Well, you're
I feel
talking
a
for
little
about
early.
7-8 minutes, so.
Okay. All right then.
So I mean,
all right,
you can finish, but.
I guess if you guys have any questions, can I do that? No questions?
Yes. Well, I mean, are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So I have 2 questions. What did you learn from the process?
The process in general?
Both personally, and what did you learn, through this process? What's your learning takeaway in this whole process?
I learned that definitely that this school is expensive, and that like most people can't just really afford to pay it straight up, and that's why most people receive financial aid here. And that wasn't something that I expected. I wouldn't have thought 88% of students receive aid here. I would probably thought it would be around like 50, 60, like probably 65 at most. Personally, I learned that, everyone has struggles in some form, shape, or way, and a lot of that could be similar to your own struggles, because, not everybody is going to assume, like, their financial aid package is not good enough, and, you don't know if the person next to you financial aid package is good enough for them, because ultimately, you don't really know that other person's story. So I thought I learned that as well.
And if you or somebody else was going to carry this on, what recommendations would you make?
What recommendations would I make? Talk to the financial aid office, because that's another thing I learned, is that they're extremely cooperative and extremely generous there, which I wasn't expecting, just because I didn't really know them, and I didn't know what to expect when I went to meet them, but they were extremely pleasant, extremely kind and helpful to the group, and I really do appreciate them helping us out and talking to us, and we're actually following up with them even more, so.
What are the questions or feedback you have for Kevin?
Yes.
I really liked how you presented it in a way that was telling a story of the progression of your project and challenge question, rather than just spitting the facts at us. And what you did, you told it in a way that was telling a story. Really connected.
So along those lines, what was your what was your template moving forward? I mean, you could just follow this sheet, right? I mean, that's one way you could do it. You could go chronologically, right, from the beginning to the end, and kind of work your way down. What was your template when you were putting this together? What were your thoughts?
Okay, so at first it was more just like, with the initial challenge question, we were just like, how do we figure this out? And then we got it down to FAFSA after just asking the students what they needed to know. So we got it down to FAFSA, and it was just like, okay, so what do we do with this? Like, how do we figure out what to do with this FAFSA? Like, people want to know about this. What do we know about this? We don't know anything necessarily. Like, we filled it out and everything, but like, we can't really teach this to people. We don't have all the tools. And then it was just more like, it was a lot of time trying to figure out how to engage it, which took us a while, but once we got in with the financial aid office, like, we kind of like, but around then we just kind of just figured it out. We were just like, all right, we're going to do the mini workshops, they're going to help us out. Like, the website's going to be improved, and that's going to help a lot of students out. And like, the sad thing is that like the semester comes to an end, and like, there definitely could have been so much more we could have done if we would have been with them from like October or late September. We could have probably already had the workshops like ready to go, which is like unfortunate that we don't yet, but it's definitely still doable, and like, we could definitely keep in contact with the financial aid office to really get this done, because I feel like it would really just benefit the campus. And we care about our stakeholders, obviously, because it's all of you guys, it's us, like, we're all a part of this.
Anything else for Kevin? All right, food truckers. So the food truck guys, they have 3 people, but there were 4 presentations, so they've given their 3. So for tonight, all 3 of them are going to take turns doing this talk.
I'm over here.
Excited to have you. Please grab something to eat while the food truck guys are talking about their idea.